Hello, everybody. I'm back with several more Kubernetes interview questions for DevOps roles. These questions, by the way, are from my GitHub repo where I have maybe 288 questions or so. So if you prefer a written version of this, I'll leave you a link to this to the repo in the description down below. But in a video, I can do a lot more content, give you a lot more context and whatnot. So let's get started. So first question, and this one is kind of silly. Nobody will ask a question like this in an interview, but I'm going to ask you a question that's relevant. So the question that is, if you have a deployment, how do you quickly make a service out of that, right? The answer is expose. So if you run kubectl expose deployment, name of the deployment and whatever parameters you need to give it, you can give it. But in one command, you can get a service out of a deployment. So in this case, the interviewer is looking for is for your knowledge level between deployment and a service and what the relationship is. All right, next question, JSON path. Again, these questions are not good interview questions, so they're not going to ask you silly questions like this where you have to remember all these little details. However, the question that might come up is, why would you use, what is JSON path and why would you need it? So JSON path is a really smart way to capture data about all the infrastructure that you have in your cluster. Basically, you're grabbing information from etcd, right? That's where all the configs are. So if you want to, for example, let's say that you want to know pods that have certain labels, belong to certain nodes, or some other combination of basically an equivalent to a query, right? You're querying all the JSON data in etcd to give you exactly what you need. In a case like that, in a use case like that, a JSON path is the way to go. A JSON path is basically an option when you do with the kubectl and get command. So you do kubectl get and whatever the query is, o JSON path, and you put the query inside the curly brackets. And if you just do a dot items whatever, you get everything. But the idea is you can really go crazy with this so that you can grab exactly what you need and nothing more. All right, moving forward. Next question. Your computer has no access to internet. How can you use kubectl command to use fine syntax of any YAML for that matter, really? So this is one of my favorite things. I talk about it in many videos because it's also great help for the AD exam and CK exam. So the idea is this. So let's say you are writing up a YAML file and you try to apply it and you get an error message of some kind because you messed up some format in the API request that you're making through that YAML. So what you can do is you can say kubectl explain, let's say we're doing a pod. You can do kubectl explain pod dot spec, and it'll give you the next level down of what the requirements are under dot spec, let's say containers and whatnot, right? You will know exactly what you expected of it. Now, if you're getting an error message from your own YAML that you're trying to apply, it will actually tell you exactly what's wrong. If you read it carefully, it will tell you. So let's say, for example, you were trying to make a pod and you messed up a spelling under containers /spec or .spec or something, right? Some maybe it's supposed to be an object, but you made it into an array, vice versa. It will tell you that. But to get to the right expectation of what is expecting, you can simply do kubectl explain pod.spec.containers, and it will give you what is expecting underneath. Even better, let's say that you don't even know what you're looking for. You can do kubectl explain pod dash recursive, that it will dump out all the API configs that it's expecting, and then you can pipe that to a grep command and grep for exactly what you're looking for, right? So this is very useful for the exam. It's also very useful when you're writing YAML for different resources. All right, moving on. Next question. What is the difference between a PV and a PVC? PV is short for persistent volume, is basically a disk. PVC stands for persistent volume claim. And by the way, there's a one-to-one relationship. They can all only be one PVC per of PV and vice versa, right? What it is PV is basically a definition of a volume of a disk, saying make a volume out of this particular disk or a local volume or what have you. There's many ways of making volumes, but once you make a volume, that's defined in your pv.yaml file, right? PVC is basically a ticket. You assign a PVC to a pod so that then the pod can actually grab that volume, right, from whatever the source is. Without the PVC, nobody else can actually get it. Not only that, depending on your policy, even if the pod goes away, the ticket remains and nobody else can grab it. Depends on how you actually define the policy. However, the point being, PVC is the disk that sits there. PVC is a ticket to get to that volume so you can be mounted on a container. That's the difference, right? It's basically a path. All right. Next command, get a command to get all your list of all PV. That's super simple. You would only get this in a junior level interview, but it's simple. Is kubectl get PV. All right, I think I'll stop here today, and I will see you in the next Kubernetes interview video.